It's Kevin McCullough on AM 970, The Answer.
You're listening to Kevin McCullough Radio, and we've got a busy show for you today. The president's going to address the nation tonight, but to what end, we will discuss. Also, the latest on what, in the aftermath of Barcelona, what we can learn from that terror attack and others.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Obliterating confusion, amplifying truth, and pursuing clarity. Kevin McCullough, now.
We got so much going on. Steve Bannon is out of the White House. Will it matter to the Trump agenda? Dr. Gina Loudon will be here to discuss that. Dr. Robert Spencer on the terrorism stuff. Also, it's a Money Monday, and we'll check in on the mayor's race. Stay with us.
Something interesting is happening with this.
Kevin McCullough, let me start with you.
I found this thing at townhall.com by Kevin McCullough. The big dog has come out of nowhere.
Kevin McCullough.
I just want to help people think.
Nationally syndicated radio host and author of No He Can't.
And he's playing the role as well as anybody could.
Kevin McCullough is a nationally syndicated radio host and author of No He Can't.
The odds are he's right.
It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
Well, it's true. The president's going to speak to the nation tonight, and what is he going to say, and how will he say it, and what difference will it make about our involvement in Afghanistan and what's going on there? I want to get right to my first guest, who has opinions on all things related to the war on terror, Dr. Robert Spencer. He's the author of a number of best-selling books on the issue. And Dr. Spencer, it's good to have you back. Thank you for being here.
Always good to be here. Thanks, Kevin.
And today, gratefully, thus far, not a serious terror attack as to the reason that we're talking about these things with you on this day. Although at the end of last week, another horrific example of what Islamic radicalism, at least that's my understanding, is doing around the world. Your take on what happened in Barcelona, some of the red flags missed, and where we are now, the 3 or 4 days into the investigations.
Kevin, the attack in Barcelona was vehicular jihad. The Islamic State, or ISIS, called for Muslims in the West to run over people in their cars. That was in 2014. And after that, there have been many such attacks. Of course, we know major ones in Nice, in Berlin, now in Barcelona. There have also been quite a few in Israel and elsewhere. And the perpetrators in this case have been identified. They are Moroccan Muslim migrants to Spain. They notably were secular people who were not religious, and all their friends and family say that quite recently they became religious and started attending a mosque that the imam was actually the mastermind of the plot. And the plot was to blow up the massive cathedral that is in Barcelona, that is one of the great architectural marvels of the world, the Sagrada Familia Cathedral. They had amassed quite a lot of bomb-making materials, but they ended up blowing up their own house, and the imam was killed in that explosion. And so after that, they decided to go the vehicular jihad route instead, and ended up killing 15 people in Barcelona and injuring about 100.
Right. And it was, as the story played out, it was just horrific to understand that vehicular attack had taken place, up to 10 city blocks? I mean, it was, a third of a mile or something like that. And the kind of inability of anybody to stop it once it had started, because that took a while to transverse that long path.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem. Of course, you have some van that's barreling through. You can just imagine on any city street, Kevin, in Washington and New York, an attack like that could cause massive devastation, and it would be very difficult to stop in any rapid way.
Well, I guess. I mean, there's a certain degree of me that says if Europe had the Second Amendment and you had armed citizens that were able to defend themselves, you could put a stop to some of that stuff earlier than later.
And absolutely.
I guess the police presence was not what it should have been.
No, and see, this is here again. We see that the police are just overwhelmed by this because they can't keep track of all these people. There was recently an attack in Finland, just right after Barcelona, and the attacker there was known to the police. He was known to be radicalized. He was on their list, but they were not watching him. And in Barcelona, they had no idea about these guys. The fact is that there are just so many such people that the authorities are overwhelmed and can't keep track. And that is explicitly one of the objectives of the Islamic State, to overwhelm law enforcement so that it collapses and simply can't keep up.
You talked a second ago about how some of these guys that were involved in this particular cell, this particular attack, were only recent serious observers of Islam. Dr. Spencer, what is the kind of trend, I guess, is the question I have, as to what degree of nominal Islamic practitioners are starting to get more, quote, serious about their beliefs and being radicalized in that process? What is this? Is this a global trend? And are we seeing this happen at a more accelerated rate than in years past? And if so, what's driving it?
Yes, in both cases, the answer is yes. And what's driving it to a tremendous degree is Saudi money and Saudi proselytizing. There were areas of the world, notably in Central Asia, in West Africa and East Africa, where there was a cultural form of Islam that had taken root that was not generally waging jihad and terrorizing non-Muslims, but had de-emphasized jihad and was living in peace with its neighbors. But those areas have been overwhelmed by Wahhabi Saudi propagandists who have been calling Muslims back to what they call, in a very famous pamphlet, jihad, the forgotten obligation. And this forgotten obligation has been reinforced around the world. The Saudis really bear the primary responsibility for this in publishing all this material that returned Muslims, reminded Muslims of what's literally in the Quran, and demanding that they adhere to it on pain of hellfire. And they've made a lot of headway.
All right. Well, we're continuing to watch things as they happen. And I guess earlier today, the driver in that attack shot and killed by police. So there's at least a little bit of closure on the violence that happened there.
Yes, absolutely. But, there are just so many more like him. We're going to see a lot more of this.
Yeah. All right, let's turn to tonight. The president has slated a big speech for Afghanistan. A lot of the questions on the social media, Dr. Spencer, are, why do we need to put a footprint back into Afghanistan? Is this a ramping up to another large war? What is the purpose of what the president is going to try to outline tonight, and will we be successful in reaching the objectives?
Well, if the reports are correct, and I certainly hope they're not, but all the reports are saying that he's going to, as you say, add troops focused on training the Afghans, increase the American presence in the country. The problem is that there is no goal. There is no objective. There is no purpose. Now, everybody seems to take for granted that there's some reason why we're in Afghanistan. But really, what are we going to do? Establish a Western-style secular republic that will live at peace with its neighbors and not oppress women and non-Muslims? That's never going to happen. And so what are we going to do? We're keeping Sharia from being established? Well, Sharia is already established, and we put it there. It's in the Afghan constitution that was ratified by the American government. And so what are we going to do? We're keeping the Taliban out of power? Well, the jihadis have already infiltrated the Afghan government, and the Taliban already controls most of the country as it is. Once we can increase the presence there, and it'll be just like the surge in Iraq. It'll achieve some superficial success, but then what are we going to do, stay there forever? We can't stay there forever, and as soon as we're gone, the Taliban will be back. What we should be doing is getting all of our troops out of there and working on containment so that they can't spread jihadis all around the world and keep training them to strike in the West. But instead, it looks as if we're just going to keep on with this fool's errand.
Well, if that's the case, why do you think the military is leaning towards making these recommendations and going this route? Is it to get... Is it the need to get that kind of at least initial control back before we do what you described? Or, I mean, I'm trying to understand the rationale for why we take this particular approach.
The people who seem to be in charge of setting the course now in the White House, the National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, the Defense Secretary, James Mattis, the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, they seem to adhere to the idea that if we show goodwill to countries like Afghanistan, and if we invest in their infrastructure and work against terrorist groups there, then we will win hearts and minds among the peaceful Muslims and establish ultimately a stable regime. I think that 15 years of presence in Afghanistan, as well as what happened in Iraq, show that this isn't really going to work. But failure has never stopped the adherents of this idea from trying to reapply it.
Well, it's going to be interesting, and it doesn't seem like there is as much broad-based support for what the president is intending to talk about tonight as there was when, certainly following 9/11, President Bush had his focus there. But we will have to wait and see and watch how people respond. It just seems like there's a lot more opposition on both sides of the political aisle to this action. But if his advisors are telling him this, I'm at least a little bit curious about what their strategy is. And Dr. Spencer, we always appreciate your insights on the matter. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Kevin. Always a pleasure.
Okay. Coming up, Dr. Gina Loudon, Steve Bannon has left the White House. What impact will this make on the president's agenda in the days to come? We've got a lot more to get to yet. It's a Money Monday, and also what's going on in the mayor's race. We'll check on all this before we're done. It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
If you're in Manhattan at this very moment trying to decide, should I go east or should I go west to go uptown to the George Washington Bridge? Well, I think the west side at the moment is a little bit better for you. Northbound looking at some delays, 150s to the GW Bridge. With that said, the FDR is not horrible. It certainly doesn't look like it usually does. We're slow from the 80s to the RFK Triborough Bridge, then more delays, 150s on up to the George Washington Bridge. But the west side, definitely a little bit more user-friendliness. Westbound Cross Bronx jammed up from the Bruckner right on through to the GW Bridge. And the southbound New England Thruway delays start in Pelham and take us right on down into the Bruckner interchange. So that's a long line of stop and go on the southbound side of 95 and on to the westbound Cross Bronx. Northbound Deegan slows RFK Triborough right up to the Cross Bronx. Southbound slows Fordham Road into the Cross Bronx Expressway. 45 minutes outbound at the Holland Tunnel. Citybound side, we're looking at about a 20-minute wait. 20 minutes each way at the Lincoln Tunnel. And really not too bad coming into town, the GW Bridge. And now you know how not to go. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
You're waiting on a sweltering platform. You're stuck in a packed train. Again. The summer of hell for commuters is making you late for work and costing you money. What are the people in charge doing about it? The governor is denying responsibility. The mayor is running away and shifting blame. And the state legislature is on vacation. It's time to reclaim your commute. It's time to reclaim New York. Go to reclaimnynow.org. Join the fight. Tell the politicians it's time to fix the MTA. Go to reclaimnynow.org today. That's reclaimnynow.org. Paid for by Reclaim New York.
Tired of dealing with dummies? Experience the smart way to buy a car at Route 22 Toyota. No hidden fees, no back and forth, no pressure, and no wasting time with dummies. Alex Cancella, the general manager, prides himself on his low lease offers and 0% APR financing for up to 72 months for qualified buyers. And now my buddy Alex wants you to experience their new smart way to service. He's taking the same smart approach that's been so successful in selling cars into the service bay. So he said, Joe, I'm going to let you give the first 5 callers in the next 5 minutes a free multi-point inspection and oil change and filter if they call 855-621-9949 and say, Joe sent me. 855-621-9949 in the next 5 minutes. Get a free oil change and filter on me. 855-621-9949 and say, this one's on Joe. Route 22 Toyota, Route 22 West in Hillside, New Jersey, or at Route22Toyota.com. Tell them Joe sent you for the free oil change. All European makes excluded.
Hey, this is Michael Riedel of the New York Post. Now, don't miss my show every Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, On the Town, brought to you by Hello Dolly, winner of 4 Tony Awards, including Best Revival of a Musical and Best Actress in a Musical, the great Bette Midler. The New York Times says everything Bette Midler does stops the show. NPR calls it the best show of the year. Get tickets at HelloDollyOnBroadway.com. That's HelloDollyOnBroadway.com.
Listen to Joe Piscopo in the morning, weekdays at 6. Mike Gallagher at 10 on AM 970. The Answer. Breaking news as it happens. You're listening to Kevin McCullough Radio.
Well, it certainly hasn't been a slow news August, that's for sure. Nearly every single day of this month, major stories coming and going, and big terrorist attacks and shakeups at the White House, and even an eclipse. It's just one of those crazy months where it's just been one news story after the other. And this last week, kind of a big announcement from someone in the White House that had really helped President Trump become president. In fact, it was really a lot of people mark the coming on board of Steve Bannon and Kellyanne Conway late in the campaign as really the difference makers in getting President Trump across the finish line. You may remember he was trailing Hillary Clinton at the time when he made those changes, and people scoffed and mocked and so forth. But the team of Bannon and Conway and others that they brought with them seemed to have a real impact. Well, this last week, Steve Bannon left the White House, and there's lots of speculations as to why, in terms of who asked him and whatever, but it seems like, at least on the public face, that the president and the former advisor are on very friendly terms. But I'm curious as to what it does in the war room, what it does behind the scenes, how people inside the policy chambers of the White House might be impacted by this move. And here to discuss it is someone who was also part of the Trump campaign, Dr. Gina Loudon. And Doctor, it's always good to have you. Of course, you have your own show, YouTube America, U2 America, weeknights. America Trends with Dr. Gina is the name of it. And people see you on Fox News as well. Talk to us about your thoughts on Mr. Bannon, his departure, and what does that do to the balance of the different power bases inside the West Wing?
Yeah, it was great to be with you. It's interesting. I'm in D.C. right now, and, of course, this is the talk of the town, as you can imagine. And I think the thing that most people are saying is, look, there's one chief strategist, that's the president. Steve Bannon said from the very beginning that he would only stay a specified amount of time, that he would be out by Labor Day, and this is just about that time. He gave his resignation on the 7th. So I don't really think that there is much of a scandal here, as perhaps the media might like to portray. But how will the White House be different? I think that's the question we're all waiting to hear answered. And I actually heard a great commentary yesterday. I did media buzz with Howie Kurtz, and I was on with Raheem. Of course, he's got a new book out, and we were talking, or he was on Howie, I think, right after me, and he made the comment, what he'd like to see would be to see the president standing in front of that whiteboard, that famous whiteboard where we know that Steve Bannon wrote all of his campaign promises, right? And he was trying to follow them and track them and make sure that they were accountable to the voters. Raheem said, I would like to see the president stand in front of that whiteboard and say, hey, it's still here, and we're still going to make sure that we're accountable for it. I really do think, though, that, the president, you have to remember that Steve, even though I think he did a phenomenal job, he did come on late. And there was a lot of campaign happening before Steve ever got there, and I think that Steve will be very effective on the outside as well. So I really don't see this as anything other than a shift, much like other shifts we've seen. Remember, we were all so concerned about how the campaign was going to be organized at one part, and that's when Manafort came in. The president has good instincts in terms of just bringing people in, timing it well, and moving on when he needs to. And I think that's precisely what we're seeing right here.
What I'm curious about is, because as best as I've been able to ascertain, there's about 5 different kind of what they're calling power bases inside the West Wing discussions. And so you have your establishment links, which was really Reince Priebus and kind of Spicer. Obviously, they had been head of the GOP party before coming in. Then you had your Jared Kushner and kind of the family wing that had their say. Bannon was really seen as the guy that was able to take the anti-establishment fervor of the country. We don't want any of the jerks in Washington, throw them all out, and connect them to the rest of the group to get those coalitions necessary to work together. Is that lack of someone that represents that group going to be more problematic for the ones that are left to try to fill? Who steps into his spot in terms of that person on the outside? The people like Gina Loudon, who during the campaign was like, hey, we need to throw the bums out. We got to get the real people's representative in there again. Who is that on the White House staff now?
Well, I think that, we're in such a technological world now, Kevin. I'm not sure it's important where people are. I think that people like Steve Bannon and yourself, and, I serve on the president's campaign media advisory board, and I think that the president really does take a lot of information in from all sorts of different people. It's part of his business background is to listen to a lot of people's opinions. I don't think that that's going to change just because Steve Bannon has exited stage right. I think that Steve Bannon has a job to do, that he always saw his job in the White House temporary, and I don't think Steve Bannon's going to quiet down at all. In fact, if anything, I think he'll probably be a more prominent voice in conservative politics at this point going forward. And so I really don't see a lot of changes. Now, I know that there is some concern that if there's not somebody really representative of this more conservative, perhaps populist faction of the party, that somehow the president is going to go rogue. But let's remember who the president was before Steve Bannon was involved. And I think that we can rest pretty assuredly, he was talking about decreasing regulation. He was talking about decreasing our taxes. He was talking about building a wall. He was talking about all those things well before there was anyone necessarily in the White House. But it's not that I don't think that Steve Bannon's departure is significant. It's just that I think that the chips have moved around a little bit, and we're still playing the same game. So I was not all that concerned.
Right. Well, and it kind of put a capstone on what a lot of people thought were going to be the major moves made before the fall. So a lot of people thought Spicer and Priebus and Bannon might be out by this time. Sure enough, they are. It looks like John Kelly has been a phenomenal replacement for Reince at the chief of staff. And what people forget, the media is blowing this all out of proportion. Oh, he's already gone through 2 chiefs of staff, and this and that. Obama had 4 or 6 chiefs of staff. He had 3 or 4 defense secretaries. People regularly make the changes when they're needing a job to get done, and they try to match skill sets with people that get the job done.
Yeah, I think you point to something really important that we, this presidency has been under a microscope like no presidency really that we've ever observed. And so we're seeing a lot more of it, and it plays out at us in much faster news cycles than we've ever experienced before. You and I know that. We used to have slow news days. We don't have those anymore.
Right.
And so,
not this year.
No. And so I don't think that there's much happening in this administration that's unusual, with the exception of the deep state being so vehemently opposed to this president, his administration, and really at this point all conservatives and
that's
our agenda.
A lot of speculation about Bannon being the guy to fight the deep state, but if he's not there, what will happen? Anyway, it's going to be another conversation for another day. Dr. Gina, thank you for your time as always.
My pleasure. Always great to be with you. Enjoy that clip.
Appreciate your stay in the nation's capital. Kevin McCullough coming right back, talking mayoral race next.
News, opinion, passion. This is AM 970, The Answer.
We have some clouds, we have sun, but mostly sun at this hour, 84 degrees. What's going on? We have the answer. The NYPD says it's trying to figure out what caused a woman's death in Manhattan. Police say 33-year-old Yanina Voitel was found Saturday night with trauma to her body in East Harlem. She was later pronounced dead at Metropolitan Hospital. Investigators are calling the death suspicious and have yet to make an arrest. Authorities say an autopsy will be completed today to find the cause of death. The NYPD is searching for a man they say stabbed another person in a Brooklyn deli. Police say it happened Saturday afternoon at World Deli in Coney Island. They say the suspect used a knife to stab another man in the neck. Then the attacker started kicking the victim. Authorities say customers pulled the attacker off the man, and then the suspect fled. The victim is in critical but stable condition. New Yorkers are celebrating a day where the Big Apple made room for about 71% of the big eclipse. Hundreds caught the show from the flight deck of the retired aircraft carrier Intrepid in Manhattan, and Ethan Harp was there.
With one last look at those instructions on the safety glasses.
Check the front and back of each one for damage.
And a few backups.
We have a pinhole projector with many different holes.
They watched our universe show off.
Okay, here it comes. It's coming, Ash. There it is.
Clouds made it more of a sport.
Oh, it's overcast, man.
But it did clear up just enough for Ella from Manhattan.
Orange, yeah, it's kind of like a banana.
And gave Jennifer from Brooklyn the big picture.
It's a part of history. It's what makes us human and gives us perspective.
In sports, Mets host the Diamondbacks at Citi Field. The Yankees have the day off. Taking a look at the traffic, outbound side of the Holland Tunnel, a 45-minute wait, 20 minutes on the city-bound side, 20 minutes each way at the Lincoln Tunnel. And we're dealing with an accident in Newark on the off-ramp from 78 to the southbound turnpike, causing delays on 78 and on the Newark Bay extension. Mostly cloudy tonight, chance of showers and thunderstorms, low 73. Sunshine tomorrow and Wednesday, high 92 tomorrow, down to 83 on Wednesday. And now you know what's going on. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So, if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. Optima has access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-711-5743. 800-711-5743. 800-711-5743. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
If you're a firm believer that education is a top priority in helping shape our children to be the future leaders of tomorrow, then you'll be excited to know that AM 970 The Answer has developed a program to help parents send their children to the best Christian schools in the area. The half-off tuition program is a way for parents to send their children to school at half the cost of the annual tuition. We've partnered up with some of the leading schools in the New York, New Jersey metro area. This is a great way for parents to reduce the costs and still have their children receive a quality education. AM 970 The Answer is also offering each school the opportunity to promote their school with a full radio advertising campaign. This is just our way to say thank you to the parents and schools that already know the importance of a good education. For more information, go to am970theanswer.com and click on the discount tuition banner. Here are just a few of the schools available: Timothy Christian School, Kearney Christian Academy, Trinity Christian School. Once again, go to am970theanswer.com for the full listing of schools.
Proving that he may be ready for prime time. Frank Morano. Sunday mornings at 4 on AM 970. The Answer. What you need to know when you need it. It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
So glad you're with us. Very big news day, and we continue. Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. The mayor's race has not lessened even 1 ounce over the summer. A lot of times people say, well, you know, these things will kind of calm down, and then they'll pick back up in the fall. I can't detect, at least that my next guest is taking any time off, slowing down at all. She is being as industrious and I think as hardworking in trying to fully grasp the ears and the hearts and the minds of what New Yorkers are dealing with than anybody I've ever seen run for mayor of a big city. And I've covered some big elections in my broadcast past. But Nicole Malliotakis, Assemblywoman from Staten Island, welcome back to the Kevin McCullough microphone. It's good to have you.
Great to be with you, Kevin.
Now, I've been reading, mainly through your social media feed, about your current tour that you've been embarking upon into the New York City Housing Authority projects and some of the conversations you've been having with people as you've been visiting with them. What has opened your eyes about this tour that you've been on?
Well, you know, this mayor and the city council have done everything they can to go after landlords in our city, and they really have gone to extreme levels. However, when it comes to their own housing facilities across the New York City Housing Authority, what we're finding are terrible conditions that tenants are living in. Many are having very much difficulty getting any action. For instance, if there's mold, if there's rodents, bed bugs, roaches, there's security issues as well that tenants have concerns about. I was just at a senior housing facility earlier today in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and they're telling me that people come in at night because there's no security. There's even things like defecation in the hallway, and it's really mind-boggling when you hear, and especially for seniors who have given so much for our community, to treat them this way is really appalling. So what I've said earlier today is that I want to have a close relationship with the tenants association presidents. I want to make sure that my administration, when I'm elected and begin serving in January, that we have an open communication, that we cut out the bureaucracy. We make improvements when they're needed. We also take care of regular maintenance issues, and we can do it. I think this is not even an issue of money. I think it's an issue of mismanagement.
Well, you know what's disturbing, Nicole, and we've talked about this a bit on the transit side of things, but it just seems like the list with this mayor is very long when it comes to the things that fall into neglect the longer that he's on the job. So, and I know that he's not entirely responsible for the MTA, but certainly they've had their problems, and he doesn't even seem to care about his own residents that get caught in that. And when you think about the mayor of New York, he's the largest landlord maybe on planet Earth. I mean, I don't know of anybody that has more direction over more units of housing for people in any singular city or setting. And when it comes to caring about the people that are there, it just seems like, at least your tour seems to be uncovering this, that there's just very little forethought given to it at all.
Yeah, well, what we see here is the mayor is right. There is a tale of two cities, but it's the mayor's donors and friends versus the rest of us. And he has only made this worse, this problem. New York City is less affordable than it was 3.5 years ago. With the transit mess, we had 2 train derailments recently. Dozens of citizens were injured. He didn't go to the scene. He didn't even wish those who were injured a speedy recovery. He turned a completely blind eye to the problems that are facing the city, refuses to work with Governor Cuomo. I've said clearly that when I get elected, I will work across party lines with Governor Cuomo to address this issue. We have to upgrade our subway signal system, which is outdated, pre-World War II condition, decades beyond lifespan. We can do it with the current money that the mayor's sitting in, not only in surplus, but really if you just redirect resources. I mean, he spent $15 billion more than Mayor Bloomberg did when his last year in office. Imagine that, increasing the budget to $15 billion more, and you're having all these sorts of problems, the homeless crisis, the transit crisis. You have education. Our students are not getting the quality public school education I did as a child. They're graduating and aren't college ready. They're taking remedial math, writing, and reading when they're going to a city university system. And then you have, again, all the other issues that we've been talking about on the campaign trail. It just comes down to a lack of mismanagement in a mayor who is not understanding the needs of the people and what's happening in this city. And so I think that, he made it very clear the other day when he said, I don't care. And I think those words were very telling, and he was being honest with the people for once.
Well, and it's interesting. I was reading in the Staten Island Advance this morning. Rachel Shapiro had a good piece about the pay raises that his personal assistants have been given. But not only has he increased, some of their salaries from like $160,000 a year to $220,000 a year, now he's added a bunch more. He's closing in on 300 assistants to the mayor. Yeah. Nicole, I don't have a single assistant. I sure would love to have one. I don't have one. Well, this seems excess in every way.
He's nearly tripled the number of assistants than what Mayor Bloomberg had. This is all a ploy to get reelected. He figures he could hire more people, put them on the city payroll, make the taxpayers pay for it, and then they go out and serve as their liaisons to shake down votes.
Nicole for Mayor 2017.com. Go there. Kevin McCullough.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. So I'm riding back from Washington, D.C. on the train just 2 days ago. And when someone turned and asked me about something that I said, you know what? I get the feeling you didn't get a very good night's sleep last night. Now, it's a rude thing to say early in a conversation, but it opened up this deeper conversation about this person's inability to get a good night's sleep. And I said, friend, I want you to understand something. When I go on the road, I've got the MyPillow travel pillow with me. When I'm at home, I've got the MyPillow deluxe pillows on my bed. And anywhere I go, I get the guaranteed best sleep of my life or my money back. They looked at me as if to say, what? Are you from Mars? No, I'm not. If you call MyPillow today, you're going to see how it works. But friends, you won't know unless you call. They're going to warranty your pillow for 10 years. They're going to guarantee the results 60 days, money back, no questions asked regardless. And they're going to say to you, if you don't get the best night's sleep, our name isn't MyPillow.com. So call right now. 1-800-506-2641. 1-800-506-2641. 800-506-2641. Use promo code AM970 and make sure you tell them that Kevin McCullough sent you when you call 1-800-506-2641. 800-506-2641. 1-800-506-2641. 1-800-506-2641.
You're waiting on a sweltering platform. You're stuck in a packed train. Again. The summer of hell for commuters is making you late for work and costing you money. What are the people in charge doing about it? The governor is denying responsibility. The mayor is running away and shifting blame. And the state legislature is on vacation. It's time to reclaim your commute. It's time to reclaim New York. Go to reclaimnynow.org. Join the fight. Tell the politicians it's time to fix the MTA. Go to reclaimnynow.org today. That's reclaimnynow.org. Paid for by Reclaim New York.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies.
I had some ulcer issues on my leg that I had from Vietnam. It would erupt on occasion of periods of stress. When I was taking juices, these ulcers had disappeared, but I was not able to get good quality fruits and vegetables to make good juices. And, these ulcers came back. But since I've been taking the fruit and the veggie capsules, these ulcers again have subsided.
Good health is only a phone call away. What are you waiting for? Don't miss your opportunity to get a free month's supply of Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-2468-751. That's 1-800-2468-751. Or go online to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code THEANSWER.
Fishing for summer flounder is one of New Jersey's most popular pastimes. But not every fish is a keeper. Be sure that the fish you return to the water this summer can live and grow to become dinner next summer. Visit savefluke.nj.gov for simple tips on safely returning undersized fluke to the water. That's savefluke.nj.gov. And remember, if you can't keep it, save it. This message sponsored by the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, the New Jersey Broadcasters Association, and this station.
Mike Gallagher says give credit where credit is due.
What's getting done? Do we have a conservative on the Supreme Court? Do we have great jobs numbers? Do we have great economic news? Do we have 1.1 million fewer Americans on food stamps under Trump? Did you know that? The media is not going to give credit where credit is due when it comes to anything related to President Trump.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 10, right before Dennis Prager at 1 on AM 970. The Answer. AM 970. The Answer.
Look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. Look around, how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening in Manhattan, and we just happen to be in the greatest city in the world. In the greatest city in the world.
If it's happening in New York or across the globe, learn why it matters first on Kevin McCullough Radio.
So glad to have you with us on Mondays. We always take a look at what's going on money-wise for you, and that's important given the current nature of where the markets are at. And as we're about to head into the fall and what's going to be the fourth quarter, is this going to be an end of year that rallies bigger than the first of the year did? Or will there be things that drag it to a little bit of a slower pace than where we've been? For instance, the debt ceiling and what's going to happen to the markets in light of the decision that's made on that. To discuss these and other things, David Fischer is with us. He's the CEO, of course, of Landmark Capital, and we always enjoy his presentation with us. David, thanks for being here. I like to ask you this question on a regular basis because I find it interesting given the kind of effervescence of the markets this year. But if somebody put in $10,000 into the Dow, silver, and gold at the beginning of 2017, here as we sit at the last full week of August, where would we be?
Well, silver is in third place at 7.3%, or would be up $10,730. The Dow would be in the middle at up 8.6% at $10,860. And gold now is leading the charge, like I said it would at the latter half of the year, up 10.9% at $11,090.
Wow. But still a rally in all three sectors, which is kind of unusual.
And I think we will still have a rally all the way through the end of the year unless something, major happens, which we could see that in late September.
Yeah. When we saw what happened on Friday with the Barcelona attack, how did that impact? Is that why gold got a little bit of an edge going into the new week?
A little bit. There's some uncertainty of wild cards out there right now that's attracting new money to gold and existing money to go into gold. We're moving really more so, though, the bigger picture, is what's really happening behind the eclipse where the light is shining is where people are really concerned about what might happen coming up in just about 5 weeks from now. So that's the biggest concern, and people are moving their money out of stocks and into safe haven assets. Even Warren Buffett is doing so.
Let's talk about that. You've talked about the debt ceiling before, but in simple terms, what do we need to do with it? Should we cut it off? Should we raise it? What do we do?
Well, this is not overspending or more spending. Think of it this way, Kevin, as a household. If the household was bringing in $10,000 a month, but their financial obligation is $12,000 a month, their bills, and they have credit card and debt payments to make, and they don't have enough to make that now, and so they go back to their credit card and ask for a ceiling, more money they can borrow from their credit card to pay Paul from Peter, and they're denied that. That would be a huge detriment to that family. That's why raising the debt ceiling is crucial. This would actually is the biggest piece of the legislation that we need to pass in the fall, September. It's bigger than tax reform. It's bigger than a budget. All those things are important.
So what's the likelihood then that they're going to do it on a fairly simple vote? Is this something that both parties buy into and they're just going to go along with it?
Well, the bottom line is, over the past 6 months, we haven't had Congress incapable of getting things done. So, what makes us think that they're going to get this thing together in 12 days? And that's all they have. So this is a crucial thing. This is probably going to get passed, but it's going to be, if history shows itself to be true. But this time around, Morgan Stanley is concerned. Goldman Sachs is now saying there's a 50% chance of a government shutdown. Ray Diallo, who runs the largest hedge fund, is saying there's broadly a huge risk now broadly based in the world with this whole thing impending on will the government raise the debt ceiling. So it's a big deal. I hope they do it, but there's too much evidence saying that they might not get something done.
Okay. Well, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. You've talked a lot about the rally and how long it can be sustained. There are some experts that have said within the last week that this rally may be showing signs of a fissure somewhere. If so, what is that crack, and is it something to be concerned about?
Well, volumes are a lot lower right now than they were at the beginning of the first quarter. So you have to have volume to keep sustained rally in markets, in any market. So when the volume is low, it gives us, that's one sign of a crack. The other sign of the crack that's happening is we're hitting what you call the 100-day moving average, which is a support and resistance level. Right now, the S&P 500 has hit that level and could go down below it. So if that crack or that index goes below that, that's a sign we're going into bear market territory. So the Dow is up just a little bit today. The S&P is flat, basically, and the NASDAQ is down. When another indicator, when these three markets are not moving the same direction, that shows there's another crack in the dike. So we're starting to see some of those, and when the Fed pulls out its balance sheet, which they're saying they will do, that's going to probably cause a big crack in the dike because that's the engine behind a lot of the force into the market.
Right. Well, friends, if any of this is concerning to you, and I think that there's a number of things that David has spoken about in the last few minutes that would be, you need to sign up for the free newsletter. He Who Holds the Gold Makes All the Rules is the name of it, and it's their brand newest one at Landmark Gold, and you can get it for free by going online and requesting at landmarkgold.com. You can also call 844-604-2575. It's a free resource, and it addresses these issues and particularly the issue of whether or not this rally is sustained and what happens if a correction does occur. You're going to get a lot of helpful information, and there's a lot of people, as David just pointed out, hedge fund managers, market managers, bank managers that are all looking at the raw data, and they're saying, look, we're overdue. These things happen every 7-8 years. We're overdue, particularly where we're at with the leveragedness of the market. So I want you to get a free copy, and all you have to do is request it when you call 844-604-2575 or go online and request it online, landmarkgold.com, 844-604-2575. And also ask about the literature, Changing Directions in Changing Times. That's the report on the Dodd-Frank Act and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and why a coming bail-in will could possibly cause you to lose all your money at some point. Check it out, 844-604-2575, 844-604-2575. Get the information you need and protect your resources. David Fischer, CEO, Landmark Gold, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Kevin McCullough coming right back.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Let's start off in the Bronx with troubles on the Bruckner Expressway on the eastbound side. We're jammed up from the RFK Triborough Bridge over towards the Bronx River Parkway. That is all because of an accident being cleared. Looks like the center lane is out of service. No bargain on the westbound side as you go west of the Bronx River over towards the Deegan and right around the southern tip of the Bronx and up towards the Cross Bronx Expressway. That's just a lot of stop and go. Westbound Cross Bronx were jammed up from the Bruckner right over to the GW Bridge. FDR northbound slow pockets of volume from the 40s up through the RFK Triborough Bridge, but certainly not all that bad. And once you're north of the RFK Triborough, it's actually not a bad ride for you, believe it or not. Northbound on the West Side Highway, we're sluggish from the 120s on up to the GW Bridge. Across the Hudson River, here are the numbers. Coming into town, the GW Bridge, really not too bad, upstairs or down. Holland Tunnel, 45 minutes back to New Jersey, 20 minutes city-bound. It looks like Lincoln Tunnel's 30 minutes inbound and 10 to 15 going back into the Garden State. And now you know how not to go. I am Mike Barker on AM 970, The Answer.
Hi, Kevin McCullough. If you're planning an engagement party or wedding or corporate event, birthday or anniversary party, bar, bat mitzvah, why not consider having it on a luxury private yacht? Your guests will be very impressed, and the memories will last a lifetime. Let my friend Francesca find you the yacht that's best for your event. We use her around Salem Media, New York all the time, and she just knows how to put that perfect touch of class to every one of our special occasions. She has beautiful vessels in her fleet that can accommodate from 2 to over 1,000, and guests can board at lots of convenient locations throughout the metropolitan area. Private yacht not in your budget? How about a deck charter? Fran's yachts are fully insured and Coast Guard certified. So visit Fran's Touch of Class to see the range of yachts in her fleet and give her a call, find out about your options. Fran will fill you in on the yachts, describe the delicious cuisine, and give you the details of the services provided. Call her today and add that extra touch of class to your event. 212-385-9400. 212-385-9400. Or franstouchofclass.com.
Tired of dealing with dummies? Experience the smart way to buy a car at Route 22 Toyota. No hidden fees, no back and forth, no pressure, and no wasting time with dummies. Alex Cancella, the general manager, prides himself on his low lease offers and 0% APR financing for up to 72 months for qualified buyers. And now my buddy Alex wants you to experience their new smart way to service. He's taking the same smart approach that's been so successful in selling cars into the service bay. So he said, Joe, I'm going to let you give the first 5 callers in the next 5 minutes a free multi-point inspection and oil change and filter if they call 855-621-9949 and say Joe sent me. 855-621-9949 in the next 5 minutes. Get a free oil change and filter on me. 855-621-9949 and say this one's on Joe. Route 22 Toyota, Route 22 West in Hillside, New Jersey, or at Route22Toyota.com. Tell them Joe sent you for the free oil change. All European makes excluded.
Jay Sekulow live is next on AM 970. The Answer. What you need to know when you need it. It's Kevin McCullough Radio.
Kevin McCullough, glad you're with us. And again, the president slated to address the nation tonight. All the pertinent details you'll be able to find as we provide coverage through the evening on This station, AM 970 The Answer in New York. And if you're listening to this by way of podcast or other means, obviously check your local listings for that as well. But we are grateful that you're with us every single day for Kevin McCullough Radio, because we have so much that we need to discuss as the news presents itself. And what we know that you want to know is not only what is happening, but what it means and why it matters. And why it matters is something that I've scratched my head for the last year about and asked the question about one Colin Kaepernick. Remember the Afro-headed quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers last year, who made a name for protesting the anthem of the nation he lives in. By protesting the national anthem, he gained much more notoriety. I don't know if it was popularity, but certainly notoriety than his exploits on the field. I believe he started last year in a third-string position for the San Francisco 49ers. And this year, he didn't get picked up by any team. This year, he struggled to get his football skills going. And it's very odd, then, what happened after that, because the groups of people that were on either side of his controversy seem to be now even more motivated. Maybe it's part of the discussion about Charlottesville and civil rights and racial relationships in this country. But this last week, there were a few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of the nearly 50,000 police officers, so 16 of those officers, of the nearly 50,000 NYPD, decided to hold a rally in honor of Kaepernick. They wore black T-shirts, and the front of them said, "I'm with Cap," hashtag. Now, couple that with the announcement this week that the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. is going to take some Kaepernick paraphernalia, and they're going to memorialize it in their Museum of African American History as part of its current Black Lives Matter exhibit. Now, remember, this museum has no place for Justice Clarence Thomas, who sits on the Supreme Court. But somehow, a jerk who protests the national anthem gets stuff in the Smithsonian for all of eternity for everyone to see. It's really quite something when you think about it. His jersey, his shoes are going to be enshrined. His personal items will be there. And they're not going to wait 50 years. They're going to put him right there next to Muhammad Ali, because as Harry Edwards, a civil rights activist, said over the weekend, he's this generation's Ali. Now, mind you, Kaepernick is no longer a decent football player. That's why he didn't get a starting job last year. That's why nobody picked him up this year. It had nothing to do with his politics, although they weren't helpful. But back to the NYPD, all 16 of them that stood underneath the Brooklyn Bridge and said, "I'm with Cap," of their 50,000 colleagues on the NYPD, were these 16 aware that his favorite wardrobe item is socks that say "Cops are pigs"? Just curious. Kevin McCullough. See you next time.